Hello, and welcome to the Canyons Are Calling podcast. I'm Charles Jocelyn, your host for the show. Today's story is a continuation of last week's episode where Tina fell 20 feet with a person that she met on Instagram. If you haven't yet listened to that episode, please go listen to that episode before you listen to this episode. This is an interview with the person that she met on Instagram and the person that set the rappel and caused her to fall the 20 feet. He has asked that I keep his name out of the story, which I am going to respect just because when the accident happened, he already had enough ridicule and he has a lot of guilt surrounding this trauma. And so it was a year and a half ago. He's trying to move on. He just wants us to learn from his mistake so that we don't make the same mistake when we're out, which is commendable. I'm just really happy that he was willing to talk to me and, tell us why he set the anchor the way that he did, because I honestly have never heard of doing a double strand rappel when both ropes are not on the bottom. If I ever have done a double strand rappel, you put one rope through, it falls to the ground, we put the other rope down to the ground, and then we rappel with everything on the ground. Never have I heard of somebody just not blocking the rope and rappelling with one side out of the backpack and one side on the ground. So it was just really interesting to me. And I don't know how many other people have used that setup, but it just doesn't seem very safe to me. So I just wanted to get the word out so that, more people don't end up hurt like Tina. I am going to keep this introduction short because I left my battery at my mom's house when I was away this weekend, and I just didn't want you guys to have to wait for another week until I could get my charger returned to me. So here is my story with the Instagram guy.
So Tina, I met her on Instagram. She just was doing adventure stuff. I had posted some things about me going canyoneering with some other friends, and she liked it and she commented, and so I reached out to her, and so we both said, oh, it looks like we like to do fun stuff outdoors. And so it was actually interesting because I'm single and I've dated people and stuff, and so it's like when I met her, I'm like, well, why don't we go sometime? And she's like, I'm down. And that's very, very rare for that to happen. And then it actually happened,
Right.
Like even up to the week before, I was expecting her to actually cancel. So then we went.
So was this the first time?
What's that?
The first time that you guys actually met?
In Moab.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
Yeah, we met that weekend.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
Besides just talking on Instagram, we talked for a few weeks, but that's about it.
Okay.
And she invited her friend Jordy, and then and I invited my friend and roommate at the time. Her name was Alex. Then we just drove down there, met him at a restaurant bar thing, and that was the first time. Gave each other hugs, and then we talked through. We were up late that night, just chatting and getting to know each other. Next morning, woke up and we went into Arches and had a great time, did some hiking. There was a big downpour, and so we wanted to wait for things to settle. We did Rock of Ages. I don't know, have you done Rock of Ages, or do you know which one that is? Okay.
I've heard about it.
The canyon is Rock of Ages. The arch that we rappel next to is called Pool Arch. There's 3 rappels, and so it's not a high risk like flash flood danger. And so we just waited for the water to settle, and once it settled, we started hiking. And it's a big long hike. It just goes up and up and up and up, and then you hit your first rappel, which is Pool Arch. It's like 180-foot rappel.
Okay.
And so we just have to tie 2 ropes together and go with that. And I had my brother's rope and my rope. I had just bought a new rope. I have unraveled it on the first rappel. In fact, I unraveled it and dropped it down, and it gobbed up a little bit, which was very disappointing to me because I don't know. I hate when that happens.
Right.
Yeah, especially. And so just a side note too is, to me, this was my first mistake, was me being the only one that was experienced. I was with 3 friends, 3 girls that had never been canyoneering before. They didn't know how to set up a rappel. They didn't know how that all worked. They knew how to go down. They had all been on a rappel, but they didn't know the logistics of it all. So I sent the first person down. And that was the problem, is like I had to stay up top, so I had to send somebody fairly inexperienced to go first. I offered a block, and I shouldn't have offered a block. I should have required a block, because they all declined. They didn't want to deal with it. And one of them said, I've used a block before and it's a pain, so I don't want to use it. And I said, okay, if you feel comfortable without a block. And now I look back and it would have been, I won't do that again. If I'm sending somebody inexperienced down first, they're getting a block no matter what.
Right.
Then, so we sent down, the first one that went down was my roommate, Alex. And she had to fiddle with the rope a little bit to get it to unravel when she got about halfway down. Finally, she got it to unravel, was there at the bottom. Then she sat as a safety belay for the next 2, and then I went last. Tina went right before me because she was the least experienced and the most frightened. Then the second rappel, we got to the second rappel, and we just were having such a great time. And it's about a 50-foot rappel, not a very long one. So what I did was I hooked up the rope, dropped one end down until it got to the bottom, left the other half in a backpack. And so it fed out of the backpack as she rappelled down. And this time it was Jordy, Tina's friend. And then, the reason for that is then you don't have to pull the whole rope back in. It was just, you just have half the rope that you have to pull back into the backpack. That was the mindset, and that's what the mistake was on the third rappel.
So that's
what
part doesn't make sense to me, because we've always thrown one side down and then everyone rappels on that side, and then maybe the last person.
It was a dual rope rappel. It was so what it was is we threw the one side down and then hooked up to both ropes and rappelled down, and the other half of the rope pulled out of the backpack as you rappelled down.
I have never ever heard of that.
Oh, really? Yeah, I had done it with some friends before on shorter rappels. Then you don't have to pull the whole rope. You don't pull the whole rope out of the backpack. You just leave it in the backpack and you rappel down as it feeds out of the backpack.
So normally we'll just block it, rappel single strand, and then throw the rope back. So the same.
In this case,
it does the same result, but I've never rappelled double strand with part of it down and part of it out.
Yeah.
That is so weird. Is that a standard thing that you normally do? Is that
no, not anymore.
Okay. But that's how
it has. I had done it previous in other canyons. You got a 15-foot rappel or a 30-foot rappel. You got a 200-foot rope. You don't want to pull the whole rope out. And most of the time I've rappelled with a double strand instead of a block and a single strand.
But if we do that, we just drop the bag and then everything's down, and
right. But instead of dropping the bag as it feeds out, we just wear it as it goes down.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then it doesn't shred up your backpack from the.
Well, I also use rope bags and not a backpack, so
right. This was right.
Interesting.
So that went well. We had a lot of fun. Then we went to the third rappel, and the third rappel is a 100-foot rappel. And so I had done this canyon probably 5 times before this. So I was very familiar, and so I went to the third rappel, and there's 2 sets of anchors on the third rappel. There's one that is right on the edge. You have to step right to the edge to get to it. And for me, being experienced, that's not an issue. I'm okay with going right up to the edge, setting up the anchor and dropping down. But I know that there is some apprehension with the girls to get that close to the edge. They did set up another set of anchors that was about 10 or 15 feet over that it came up. So here's the ledge, and here's the anchors right next to the ledge. This one was over here, so you can hook up. And what it's meant for is a safety chain to go over to the anchors.
Okay.
In my mind, I was like, why don't we just rappel off of these anchors? And then you can walk off it and back down it, and it's a lot more comfortable.
Right. Get weighted into it. That makes sense. Especially because it's a free hanger rappel, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was my biggest mistake next to complacency. So I set up the rope. This rope didn't have a center mark. I dropped the one end down to make sure it touched. It's a 100-foot rappel. So I figured she would go down feeding it out of the backpack again. And then by the time when she got out of the bottom, the rest of the rope would just be, there would probably, usually there's about 3 or 4 feet of rope that lays on the ground on that rappel. So she starts going down, and this time it's Tina's turn to go down first. So she starts going down, and I heard her shout up, "Is it okay if the rope falls out of the backpack?" And in my mind, she had tipped back a little bit. It all fell out of the backpack and just fell to the ground. And so I said, "Yeah, that's fine." And then she said, "So it's okay if it goes to one rope?" And I went, "No!" And I shouted no. And then right then the rope went zoom, and pulled through all the thing. I looked over the edge. I saw her hit the ground. It threw her back, and then she hit up against a rock. The initial hit is what broke her legs. Then when she got thrown back, that's what broke her pelvis. I saw her hit a rock, and then she was laying there, and she obviously started screaming. And for a moment there, I thought we were stuck up there because she took the rope with her. And then it just went into adrenaline mode. And I remembered there was another rope. So I shouted to my roommate who had the other rope. I said, "Pull out that other rope." I set up the rappel. I looked at both of them and I said, "I'm going to go down. If you aren't comfortable setting up the rope and coming down yourself, I want you to stay up here." And they said, "Okay." And then I went down by myself. I checked her legs. She had a bone protruding out of her ankle. She said, she was so sweet. She was so scared. And she goes, "I know my leg is broken. Please don't describe it to me."
Oh,
I
God.
won't. And I said, so I checked other things. She knew she could still feel her leg. So I knew that was a good thing, that she didn't damage her spine in any way. If she was like, "I'm fine, I don't feel any, pain or anything," then I would have been really horrified. But she said she could feel everything, which unfortunately, that's a good thing. She has to be in pain, but it's a good thing that she was in pain. My Boy Scout mode, my Eagle Scout mode went to survival mode, where I thought I need to find a way to carry her out of here. And then the two up top just said, "We got this, just go." And then I ran 3 miles, found a guy, this is the canyon that you get to. It's called Pritchett Canyon. And so I ran 3 miles in Pritchett Canyon, found a guy that had just stopped motorcycling and was kicking back on his lawn chair. Well, I said, "Can you drive me into town?" Because I had forgotten my keys. My keys were in the backpack that Tina was wearing. So he drove me into town. I called 911. Man, those guys were absolutely incredible. I had a sheriff there within 5 minutes, and I had an ambulance there within 10. They were very calm. They helped me calm myself down, because I was, going into a panic a little bit. I didn't go into a panic until everything was taken care of, and then I just broke down and I cried. And then I went back with the team to help, and once they were there, they took care of her. My roommate Alex felt comfortable enough to come down and help, So she came down and rappelled down herself, but Jordy did not. And she stayed up there. And then once they took Tina out, Alex went with Tina and Jordy was up. They called a helicopter in and took Jordy out and just kind of left me there by myself with one other guy in the quiet. It was a surreal moment. We went out and I sat in a car with a search and rescue guy, and he asked me what happened, and I told him, and he said, "Sounds like your biggest mistake was complacency." Because I didn't tie, I was confident enough that the rope would reach to the bottom, but I didn't take into account, I changed it when I moved it over, and that shortened the rope about 20 feet at least. And so she came to the end of the rope. The other thing is she unfortunately didn't know that if it goes to one rope, that's a bad thing. And so I didn't teach her well enough in advance those kind of safety precautions. And then I didn't tie knots in the ends of the ropes. Yeah. I've been doing this kind of thing my whole life. I've been a rock climber since I was a teenager. I've ridden dirt bikes, mountain bikes. I get hurt. My family gets hurt. We've all been part of that. Mostly I get hurt from my own mistakes. And the biggest thing that I struggle with is somebody else got hurt because of my mistake. And someone as sweet as Tina, she's been wonderful. She's kept me out of her story, which has been really sweet because she has real reason to blame me, to tell me, like, this is your fault, even, worse things. And she hasn't. I immediately started going to trauma counseling and just trying to work through it. So that's essentially the story. I just saw 2 sets of anchors and thought, let's do this set without taking into consideration the lost amount of rope yeah, I mean, the rope would have reached perfectly to the bottom if I set up the anchors, and it would have been a good day. But instead I set it over there, and because of that, there was an accident, and it was rough. I walked out with a search and rescue canyoneering guide, and he said that's one of the biggest accidents that happen is going from a dual strand to a single strand and letting it slip through and falling from there. We're taking friends canyoneering this year. Some of them haven't been, so we actually held like a clinic to discuss the safety procedures, the equipment that they need, and everything about that. I've been canyoneering 3 times since then. One of them was at Rock of Ages. I went to Rock of Ages again last September, and I actually took somebody, once again, a stranger, somebody that I met at Moab. And so all the anxieties and the PTSD kind of came back, especially when we got to that. But I knew that I needed to set up the rappel again and do it right this time. And I did. And we all got out safely. And it was very therapeutic, and it was good for me. But then I texted everybody, Tina, Jordy, and Alex, when I got home and told them about my experience, and they were positive about it. Yeah, but Tina's special for sure.
You marked the rope in the middle now, so you know where the middle is. Anything else you do different because of that?
I tie the rope together at the end. So and that's one thing that I said to the search and rescue guy. I said, one time we tied knots in the end of the rope, and then we pulled it through and forgot to untie it, and we almost lost a rope. And he said, tie them together. Tie the ends together, and then you'll never lose the rope, because you can't, when you start pulling it through, obviously you start pulling through, it pulls the knot up, and you go, oh yeah, and you can untie it. Mm-hmm. So I started doing that, mark the ropes, helmets, and yeah, right. Oh my God. So, so the search and rescue guy, when I was walking out, he goes, at least you guys were wearing helmets. And I go, we weren't. And he goes, I got a question for you. Do you mountain bike? I said, yeah, I love mountain biking. He goes, do you wear a helmet? Yeah. Okay. Do you ski? Yeah, I ski. Do you wear a helmet? yeah. This isn't any different. I'm like, you're right. I know. So I bought 2 helmets, actually, one for me and one for somebody that may come without one. What was I going to say? Oh yeah. If I ever take somebody that isn't experienced, I will always give them like a rundown of everything, all the dangers, all the, I might even share. In fact, I have in the past shared the story, the accident, just to kind of solidify that bad things can happen easily if you don't follow these procedures. Make sure they know what they're doing, make sure that they are comfortable. And I also will never go where I'm the only experienced person. I will always go when you have 2 experienced people, one person that goes first down the rope and one person that goes last down the rope. That's nobody that way, because an experienced person would have seen the rope come out and said, shit,
they would have been able to
came out, we're not long
maybe.
enough.
Yeah.
And then we could have done things to make sure they got down safely, set up the other rope or whatever while they hung on. Tina didn't know. She just said, so it's okay to go to one rope. And she heard me yell no, but it was too late.
Right.
And so
do you know the contingency blocks where you can just go like single strand and then lower somebody if anything happens from the top?
I've never done that. You set up
you can set up like a figure 8 is usually pretty popular, or like a munter mule, and then everyone just goes single strand, and then if there's an issue, you're able to unblock it from the top and then like lower somebody to the ground or something like that.
When I talked to that guide, that canyoneering guide, he said he never does dual strand rappels anymore.
Yeah.
I thought that was the safer option, and he's telling me that it wasn't.
No, and because then you do have options, like if somebody gets a glove stuck or their hair, that's a common one.
Right, that is
hair stuck in the rope, t-shirt, whatever.
Yeah.
And then they're just on one rope, so you're able to, you have that other 100 feet or whatever, you can lower them to the ground. You're up in Salt Lake area?
I'm in Ogden. Yeah.
Ogden. There's some people like Shane Wallace and Bruce Shapiro that teach some classes. They're usually just like free, show up and learn some stuff.
Oh, free.
It might be a great resource for you to just go to those and learn some stuff.
I looked into a canyoneering certification course. It was like $200 in Salt Lake, and I was actually going to do that, because the one thing is, if I'm willing to, exactly. If I'm willing to take strangers or inexperienced people, then I want them to feel comfortable, like he's certified, he knows what he's doing.
Right.
For one, make me feel better about it too, because I'd feel like having that kind of knowledge, make sure I know everything about it that is necessary to know. I went canyoneering the following Labor Day, that same year of the accident. You want to come? And we did Boundary Canyon in Zion. I don't know if you've done Boundary.
I haven't done that one yet, but it's high on my list.
Fantastic. That is an incredible one. We did it on Labor Day, and that one was dry then. So it's usually a running waterfall the entire time, but we did it dry. And it was really fun, but it was, we did that single strand rappel almost the entire time. And that's what they did, is they used the 8-knot. I've always done the, I can't even think of what it's called, where you get the carabiner, you do Yep, that one. Yeah. And so I usually do that for my block, but that was the first time I had somebody do an 8-knot, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. I like that. And I actually I kind of saved a guy's life. He tied into the wrong side, it was a single, and he's tied on the block side. And he was about to go down, and I stopped him. And I said, you're on the wrong side. And he goes, you just saved my life. Right. He would have gone. He was full on going to go down that way. And I caught it and told him.
So when we do single strand, we never put the pole side down. We always leave it up.
That's a good idea. I like that.
So that they can't.
You just have.
Because when I was very first starting, we came across a girl that was doing Imlay Canyon, and we were coming out of Orderville. Yeah. And so when we met at the confluence, there were some people that were like, a girl just fell on this rappel and she needs some help. And one of my friends was a first responder. So part of our group went up to try to help her.
Yeah.
And that's what happened to her. She clipped to the wrong side of the rappel. And I was like, this doesn't make sense to me. Like, her gear is clearly worn. She clearly knows what she is doing. How did she clip to the wrong side? And my friends were like, well, we never put the other side down. So that's why you've never seen how that would be a possibility. And I was like, oh, that makes sense then.
When you don't, so the last person drops it down okay, that makes sense.
Yep. Sometimes the second to last person, depending on the rappel, sometimes the second to last person will take it to make sure that it reaches so that the last person doesn't have to do anything.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
But but usually most of the people go and it's totally safe, and then the one person is taking more of a risk.
That's very good practice.
Because of that, I will always clip in and make sure I'm clipped to the right side, and then I'll throw the pull side.
Yeah, smart. Just to make sure that's exactly what I was thinking when I thought about that. Like, before you throw it down, you clip in and then throw it down. Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah. So I mean, there's just so much that we can all learn from each other.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And that's the big thing is I have my canyoneering partner that I go with most of the time. He's very detail oriented. He has all the gear, all the safety gear, all the emergency gear. Like, and it's so, I love going with him because I trust him in everything. I will always run canyons with him because I trust him not to do everything. I help out, of course, but I know that he's done the research and knows exactly what needs to be done. Yeah.
Another thing too about a class, if you put in, like, if you want to do a class, they point out scenarios that you don't really think of and then make you work through them.
Oh, okay.
So it's actually worth it, because then you're like, oh, that's why you do the things that you do that way. You know what I mean? Teach you self-rescue. They can teach you all things like that just for your own knowledge too.
Yeah. Yeah. Because anything can happen.
Yeah.
And, one time I went with my brother on the same rappel as where Tina fell. It was the last one in Rock of Ages. We actually did a single strand rappel. And my brother started going down. I want to say it was either an 8.7 or a 9mm rope. And he was using an ATC. And when he started going down, he went about 3 feet and had to pretty much jam his hand in it because it wasn't stopping. The ATC, it was too thin for the ATC. And so he had no braking. So he had to wrap the rope around his hand and set up a block while he's hanging from the rope, because it was, So he's a little nervous about single strand as well. But then he went out and bought 2 critters, and he won't even use an ATC anymore because of that. And I went out and I have, what's that?
I hate the ATC.
Yeah. The thing with the ATC is everybody has an ATC if they have, pretty much if you have a harness, you have an ATC basically, and so a lot of people have that, and not everybody has a critter, or I've got a piranha. And I really like that because the piranha actually has a brake slot where you just jam the rope in. So if something does happen, you can lock it in and then work with it. But yeah, things like that. I think about Tina, if she had something like that instead of an ATC, because she was going down with an ATC, she could have locked it in and waited for us to set up some safety measures for her to get down safely. But so that was the one thing she thought of, is like, what if I held on and couldn't hold on anymore and still fell or something like that. So yeah.
I was actually at this North Wash party with the guy who designed the ATC.
Oh yeah.
And I didn't realize it, so I'm totally talking trash about it. And they gave me like a couple of shots of tequila, right? And then I'm just like, the ATC fucking blows. And then he's like, keep telling me how much this is trash. And I was like, well, you designed it for climbing. Like, in climbing, it makes sense. And I used it in climbing, and climbing it totally works. But in canyoneering, the only thing it's good for is like a top belay if you need it for a kid or something. Do not like the ATC.
I'll never go back to it. I bought two piranhas. Same reason why I bought 2 helmets is like I want to yeah, I want them to be safe, and that's a safer option than going with the ATC. The other thing, and it's on the education side, is I gave Jordy the critter. She was using the critter. And the problem with that is that she didn't know how to use the critter. And so I showed her on the first rappel, and on the second rappel, she set it up while I watched to make sure she did it right. And that's why she flew out on a helicopter, because she was up there by herself and wasn't familiar with it enough to feel like she could hook it up and go down safely.
Yeah.
And so what they told her initially is that they were going to have a team go up and do the entire canyon and get her that way, which would have been at least a 3-hour wait. She would have just been up there by herself.
Wow.
And we still had the rope down, and one search and rescue member said that she could ascend it. She's like, I'll just ascend it. But they declined. They didn't let her do that. And then finally they're like, we're just going to send in a helicopter. I'm like, okay, just do that. That sounds good. Yeah. Where Tina was, they wouldn't even have been able to life flight her out, just because it was right next to the cliff. It would have been a danger for the helicopter to be able to land. And it was, they chose the best option to take her out. They took her out on like side-by-sides, and yeah, Pritchett Canyon is pretty aggressive.
Like a four-wheeler to the ambulance or something.
Yeah, that's exactly it. This guy had this biggest, like, decked out Jeep and everything. They had side-by-sides. It was obviously they knew what they were doing, because it was Moab, and they get calls. In fact, they told us that was their 4th call, I think, of the day to go help somebody in danger. And they were, I don't want to say nonchalant, but they were calm. And it helped me a ton, because I was shaking, I was crying, and they came up and they just asked me questions. They kept me calm. They asked me, what had happened. And then they had a calm demeanor, an urgent demeanor, but a calm demeanor. And then we walked out, and we were able to get to her and get her to safety. What I struggle with the most is that it was smack in the middle of COVID, and I could never visit her ever. I wanted to spend every evening at her side in the hospital and talk to her and be there for her. And I felt so completely helpless, not able to do anything. So all I could do was send her encouraging texts. She wanted me to send her pictures of me out mountain biking or things like that, because she was stuck in a hospital or stuck at home and couldn't go do those things. And so she said that she really appreciated me sending her those pictures. I felt bad doing it, because I'm like, it wasn't like a neener, but it was like a kind of
guilty. Like I'm
out here. My mistake puts you in the bed, and I'm out here having fun and rubbing it in a little bit. But that's what she asked me to do, and so I did it. And it was really rough. It was really rough, and the guilt of it all was a huge struggle. Once I found out that she could, she won't ever be the same by any means, but when I saw her mountain biking for the first time, on her Instagram, it just filled my heart with joy, that I didn't take that from her.
I really, really appreciate you sharing your sentiment.
Yeah. It's good. It's scary. I mean, I shared the story a lot when it first happened, and it's been a while since I've had to tell somebody. So when I got your message last week, it sent me into like a PTSD. My heart started pounding. I kind of had an anxiety attack, and I didn't want to answer, but I knew that, the idea of helping people not have this mistake happen to other people, that's valuable, that's important, and I want to make sure that happens. So I'm happy to talk about it. And
I'm glad you thought about it and talked to Tina about it.
I wanted to reach out to her first.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
So I also feel like then I should ask you the other questions that I ask everybody.
Okay.
What's your favorite canyon snack?
Canyon snack. Oh man. You know what's funny? It's string cheese. Probably string cheese.
Oh, I love cheese.
I get these little packets. They're RX. I don't know if you heard of RX bars or whatever, but they have like little nut butter packets, and they have like egg whites in them and dates, and it's all really healthy but really good protein and stuff. Oh man, I go crazy for that. That is like my favorite canyoneering snack because it's just a small little packet you throw in your backpack. It can get wet because it's all sealed up. Yeah, I would say those are those are my favorite. I love that.
Perfect. Okay, how about after canyon beverage?
Oh man, after canyon beverage. That's a good question. Just like a classic beer, a Heffy. Yeah.
I'm an IPA lady.
Oh, okay.
IPA fan.
Yeah. I like the. I'm looking at my mini fridge right now, seeing what I have in here. I discovered these Golden Spikes. You into? Maybe they'll sponsor me. And they're like one of my favorite hefts. I think they're so good. And then the Arnold Palmer spiked Arnold Palmers are another favorite as well.
Oh, I just had one of those not too long ago. They're not bad.
Yeah, they're damn good. I had one before this just to not like one does a lot, but calms the nerves maybe.
Well, like on a hot summer day, those would be great after a canyon.
What's that?
I feel on a hot summer day, those would be perfect.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah, they're really good. Do you have any other questions?
Yeah, if you could go anywhere in the world, where would you go and why?
Oh man, okay. It's kind of stuck between New Zealand. New Zealand, because I'm a nerd and I watched The Lord of the Rings as a kid and loved them, and I wanted to go visit all those mountains that they're hiking there. Mountain biking. They have like this massive swing. It's like one of the biggest swings in the world or something, and I thought that would be way fun to do too.
There's some cool canyons over there too.
Yeah, I bet you. That place is phenomenal, so I just want to go there. I figured I could spend a week there and do something different every day. The other place would probably be, is it Switzerland? No. Yeah, Switzerland. Yeah, they have a cool Via Ferrata there that I've seen videos of that I want to do. Yeah, that would be really fun. Switzerland.
Via Ferratas are getting popular over here now, finally.
Yeah, it's finally. It's been in Europe for so long, and I haven't done any. But I always see it and go, I want to do that. There's a one here in Ogden that is not open to the public. I don't know how you get access to it, but it's a small one, obviously, because it's not. I mean, it's just the Wasatch Front, but it looks like it could be some fun. But I don't know how I get access to it. I don't know if it's like you have to take a class and then they take you up it. I have no idea, but.
There's one into Kanab that I got to do with the guy that I moved here to work for originally. Seldom Seen Adventures, and it was like oddly more terrifying than like the 300-foot rappel in Ingolstadt.
Oh yeah.
It was just like I was out of my element. I'm like leaning over. I'm like on these little rebar things, and I'm just like shaking. I was terrified, and I'm only 30 feet off the ground. I'm like, what is this?
Right.
But then we got to take 250 youth members from the Enterprise Church through the canyon in 2 days. And watching those kids go through that was so impactful.
Yeah.
It was such an incredible experience just to be a part of that and being part of like empowering them to help them overcome their fears and all of that stuff.
Yeah, that's cool.
So many people bought that property, and now I think you can go through it again, but it had been closed for a few years now. So it's exciting to know that it's open again.
Yeah, that's way cool. You said it's down south?
Yeah, Kanab. I think Rome Adventures is how you can go through it now.
Rome Adventures. Okay. I'll have to look
There's also one East Zion Experiences put one up in Mount Carmel, and that one looks really, really cool. I haven't done that one yet either, but they just put that one up last summer, and it looks rad. It has 3 or 4 different stages.
I can imagine the work to set that up.
Yeah,
that's a lot of work.
Right.
The cables and and the maintenance. It's got to be crazy.
Yeah.
That's
so
cool. That's way cool.
Anyways.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm glad that they're showing up here, and I got to go experience those now. I've lived in Utah my entire life. I grew up in Ogden, and I've lived an adventurous life my entire life. We grew up going to Moab every year, going to the sand dunes, all of these things. And the crazy thing is I'm 35 and I'm still finding new things in Utah to do. So, like, you just can't explore it all. And people are like, why don't you leave the country and go travel? I'm like, because I'm still exploring what we have here in our backyard.
My backyard.
Yeah, like there's so much, and so it's pretty incredible. I have some friends that do actually want to go up north though and go do the Tetons, which would be really fun too. That would be a new experience for me as well. Mountaineering, cool. That's not my thing yet.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But yeah.
Alrighty.
Life is fun. It's scary.
That should be fun, right?
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah. Cool.
Alrighty.
Anything else?
Question. Any safety advice you want to leave?
Safety advice. Wear a helmet. The biggest safety advice I would say is mistakes are made in every aspect of life. We are all human. We all make mistakes. And so always bring somebody that has similar or better knowledge than you so you could check each other's safety. Because like I said
I like that a lot.
And he's very familiar with canyoneering, and even he's set up on the wrong strand. And that's all you have to do to make that small of a mistake, and that's death or horrible injury. And so if you have somebody that can check you and you can check them, that's probably the most important thing you can do.
Well said. I like that.
Thanks.
All right. Well, I feel like the canyons are calling.
Yeah.
We should probably go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, well, we all have so much that we can learn from both Tina and this guy's story. It is such a sad and tragic situation. My heart goes out to both of them, as well as the two people that were in the canyon with them that day. Just a horrible situation all around. Shout out to Moab Search and Rescue for just a commendable job you guys do every day. I mean, in the summertime, 4 to 8 rescues a day, I have no idea, but it's getting ridiculous. So we all need to be more aware. We all need to be more careful while we're out there. If you're new to the sport, please get some classes. I mean, a couple $100 compared to what Tina went through is totally worth it, in my opinion. The price of a backpack is way less expensive than the price of new legs. Make sure you have helmets. Make sure all your group knows what they're doing. These situations can be avoidable. Mistakes do happen, I understand. But when people have the adequate training, they're less likely. If you do have any ideas for the show, please reach out to me at thecanyonsarecalling@gmail.com. I have some stickers, beer glasses, and dog tug toys on my website at thecanyonsarecalling.com. I also have a link there for resources that will have classes in your area. If you're in an area that doesn't have classes available, please reach out to me and I can find out how you can get more training in your area. Other than that, I think I better go. The canyons are calling.